So the first question, I really want you to discuss this. I want you to think about it, okay? What will be the consequences of the adoption of the US dollar as the common currency in NAFTA? So we start with the male population. We agree on that, yeah? It's 4-2, so they lose, yeah? Who wants to answer? He has like a sleepy face, so he's the one that has to answer this. You had about 24 hours to think about it.
Can I answer that one?
Sure.
I think that it would be better for the NAFTA because it means like a step further in the economic integration of the three countries.
So despite the experience of the Eurozone, you will be in agreement that it makes sense for the NAFTA countries to reach a common agreement and using one currency. Now, I'm saying US dollar because it will be absolutely normal that that will be the currency, okay? I don't see the Canadian dollar I don't see the peso becoming the common currency. But if that's the case, we're not really talking about what is the currency, okay? What we're talking about is what is the consequence if I use that. So what you're saying is it is positive. And is it positive because of?
Well, I think that it would mean, like I said, deeper integration and therefore...
Why do you think there will be deeper integration if we have the dollar as common currency?
Because then you can move dollars in and dollars out from...
And you cannot do that now?
Well, nowadays, for example, in Mexico, you have some restrictions. And I think that...
What restriction do you have in Mexico right now?
I think that to avoid the money laundering and that stuff, you have like taxes on dollar withdrawals and deposits.
Let's go to the female side of the population.
I have a lot of consequences.
Positive or negative?
Mostly negative.
Okay. So she is against you, okay? No, don't say anything. Just wait. Who else is in favor of the dollar? I'm just, the dollar, you can use any currency. We call them whatever, okay? But we have one person that says that it makes a lot of sense to go because it will really lead to deeper integration. There is one person saying already, I don't agree with that. I think it will be bad for the integration of this. Okay. Who else is in favor or against? Just raise your hands. No. Favor, okay? Against. Against? Against? Favor. Okay. So, Nancy, you will sit on that side because now you are part of this group, okay? Okay. Let's do the following. The reason why we have this kind of things is because you can arrange them in a different way. So bring your forget the name, tables on this side, okay? And you bring your tables on this side. Ready? Okay, so we're going to start with people against. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to make one statement. She's going to make a statement. She's going to be speaking for the group, but anyone can participate, okay? The whole point is to participate. And Jamel, you're going to be the speaker on this side, yeah? Okay. So you're going to make a comment. She's going to make a comment, and then you make a comment, and then you debate, okay? Are you against or for the common currency? For. Sit on this side. Yeah? That side. Okay. Okay, so we have the two themes now. I'm going to give you exactly 10 minutes of debate on this point, okay? So let's start for the people that are against it.
We think that it would be very complicated to have a similar monetary policy, and that would also imply having a common central bank, which would be a political difficult decision, and also it would be difficult for the country, being so dissimilar, Mexico and the United States, to have the same interest in this policy.
Do we say all our good points or just...
It's a debate. And you don't hear what she said or she's wrong.
Well, we don't because...
Listen what she said. Did she use one single economic argument, or are all of them political?
Political.
Why? So go ahead and tell her why you don't make a view.
It might be difficult, but since we first have the example of the European Union, right? So now we can learn from that. I mean, they have more different countries, but since we are only 3 countries, it will be easier. We can learn from that. Also, the dollar, it's like the strongest currency. So, I mean, if you compare with the peso, of course, it will help a lot to our country, like in different ways, not only like in the economical aspect, but also as we have seen, it will help us to be more transparent, less corruption, a more efficient economy.
Also, there's going to be more control on the policies we make, because if we have a common currency, then all 3 countries will have to agree on a certain degree on what we can say.
But the terms of our currency are determined by
I'm getting nearby to you because I'm the one with the microphone, okay? So go ahead.
but are determined by a market, and well, we have the example of the European Union, but we have very 3 economies, or maybe a contrast, a very big contrast between the economies of Canada and the United States, and the type of economy Mexico is, and the type of industry we have here, because we take as an advantage that our currency is depreciated, and that makes us more competitive in some sectors. And also,
But it is our currency depreciated right now? What has happened in the past 6 months?
It has appreciated, but that is the fact. We were talking about this, that there's...
Are you for or against the currency integration? Okay, you see it on that side. Who's in favor?
I think I'm against it.
Finally. We have 2 male on this side, finally. Yeah? Okay, so what you are saying is one of the conditions that makes sense for us to have a free currency is because then the dollar peso rate will appreciate or depreciate, and that may be necessary at some point. Yeah?
no, I mean, our currency is determined by the exchange rate is determined by the market and the conditions we have in our industries. And we have seen that the exchange rate we have is a competitive advantage for our industries and has made Mexico a solid economy.
So you want flexibility in the exchange rate.
Yeah.
If you have flexibility in the exchange rate, you have flexibility in your monetary policy. If you have flexibility in your monetary policy, it's better for the country than to be tied up to one single currency that is defined by the Central Bank of the United States. Yeah?
But like the whole point of
Don't feel compelled to answer, all of you, okay? You can also pass the voice. But if you want to answer all, you
Regarding
can.
that, I think we can be more competitive in some other aspects, like quality, for example, and not just selling our products at a cheap price. So maybe competency will upgrade our.
We are too different. We are like the economies have some similar point. Like we have a lot of similar industry in Mexico, in Canada, in Mexico. We are not too different. Like all people think we are. I think like we are.
and also like the whole point to foster like the life standards and everything is to foster trade. So if we have the same currency, I think trade will be easier in every aspect. I mean, you can export and import more. Like if maybe the dollar is up, then like, you know, like your export imports will be like damage, or I don't know how you say it. So I think we have the same, we can have more trade, like, and that will help us, like, us as a country and as consumers.
Actually, I think it would damage us, because if we're selling in dollars, it would be more expensive for people to buy it outside. So you will have less exports. It will be good for your consumers because they will be earning in dollars and they can pay more. But also, the difference is huge. And talking about Europe being an example, actually, that's what we saw, that the rate was different. The real rate between Spain and Germany, for example, was different, but they couldn't do anything about it because they were having the same currency. So you can't really help your country, even though the situation is very
Well,
different.
you have to remember that with export is more than 70% to the United States, to Canada. So that is it's not a lot of damage. Our 7% of exports is in Canada and in the United States. We only have in Europe like 10%. It's not affected too much, you know. That's why it's so important. that
Okay,
we see-
think about the company, okay? Don't think about countries, think about companies. You are going to be working for companies,
Well, you're selling in dollars.
okay?
Yeah, but it will be really difficult to the investors to come in Mexico, because if you are paying in dollars, the labor force is going to be more expensive than now. So the cost and benefit of this is going to be
Well, you have any
a
kind
bad
of-
thing for the investors that want to come to Mexico,
Yeah,
because they don't want to pay more for the quality of their products.
but that is if your differentiation is on price. But what if we are progressively changing on quality, efficiency, like the States, for example?
The type of life we live in is going to be the first level.
Yeah, but right now the difference is because we have the peso, and in the United States they have dollar. So we can do that difference between those currencies. And if we adopt the dollar, the labor force is going to be more expensive. So we are going to acquire the same level of life as the United States.
If we have a common, sorry,
Okay.
having a common currency,
This is what's called a debate, okay? Debate is a debate.
having a common currency, we're gonna, in the long run, we're gonna specialize in what we do best. So I think it's not that important if the peso is equal to the dollar. We have the same currency, because at the end, we're gonna do what we do best.
And also having the same currency doesn't mean that we are going to have the same wages. I mean, United States is going to have the same wages, maybe us the same, just inverted into dollar. I mean, it doesn't mean we are going to take the same wages, policies, and everything like.
Okay, now, question for you. What is the advantage from the company standpoint, okay? From the firm standpoint of having a common currency? You're working for a company. You're going to be working, I hope, for a company, yeah? You're going to have your own company. So you're looking at this discussion, you're sitting there thinking, okay, that's nice discussion in terms of the macro and everything else is interesting. What is it there for me as a company? What will I be concerned about?
You don't care about the exchange rate that is gonna change in 3 months.
You don't or you do?
No, now you do.
Now you do.
You have the same currency.
If you put me this one, I won't have that.
Yes,
What is the implication of that for the company?
you can have a fixed price.
Yeah, you know exactly that you're going to be selling products now. If you're a company that is exporting to South America, you're not exporting to the United States, yes. 80%, 85% of the exports of Mexico go to Canada and the United States. But you're a company that's exporting to Central America.
I don't know, you have to have a better product, you have a different differentiation.
So what are you talking about then? Better product. What's a better product? How do you make a better product?
Quality.
Efficiency, quality.
Okay.
And even price.
So you're interested in having a common currency. They are saying no because it takes away flexibility from the government in terms of the kind of policies that they can handle. What they have been saying all along is exchange rate policy, yeah? Monetary policy. That's what they have been saying all along. You have been saying also a little bit of the same thing, but now what you're saying is really that's not important. If that is not important, then what's important for a company?
To specialize in what you do best.
Good. You have specialized now in what you do best. And all of a sudden the government comes to you and says, yeah, but you know what? Now you have to pay a higher salary because I say so.
Well, we pay it because your product is going to be cleared and your product is going to be
Well, then what it means to you? If you're going to do that to me, my cost is going to increase for anything I did?
Actually, your sales is going to increase, maybe.
Oh, you don't know that. How do you know that? You're a company, okay? You're not a country. Now we have discussion on a macro sense or a micro sense. Now this is important to you. You're going to be working, hopefully, either in companies or in your own company, okay? Now you're going to be working in government, it's a different discussion, yeah, at some point, okay? But the whole thing that you're talking about is, if I am a company, I want to make sure that I can make a better product, but also I want to make sure that I'm competitive. That's what you said, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. What they are saying to you is, the exchange rate may make you uncompetitive, even if you are competitive. Because what will happen is, you won't be able now to use the exchange rate differential as one advantage. And what you're saying is, yeah, fine, but that's not necessary. That's what you are saying. Even though you may not know that you are saying that, that's what you are saying. And what they are saying is, the exchange rate is important, which is not necessarily correct. Because you see, the point that the exchange rate will make to them is, yeah, you may devalue at some point, but you can also revalue. And when you revalue, the cost of production in other currencies is going to be more expensive. Yeah? What's happening in Mexico right now is we're getting all this amount of money coming from outside. The money is coming to make investments, so it's going into the financial part of the economy. If that money does not translate itself into a reduction in interest rates, and therefore more competitive environment on the financial sector in Mexico, then one of the problems that you're going to be facing as a company is your financial costs remain the same, but compared to products in, you name it, I mean, you know, with the exception of the United States and Canada, but compared to other countries, because the peso is revaluing, I'm going to be losing competitiveness. Okay? I'm even losing competitiveness because of that with companies in the United States and Canada. Because what happens right now is, because the peso is revaluing, in dollar terms, Canadian or American dollars, my products are now more expensive. Yes? If that's the case, what you are saying is, that's why I like a common currency. Because then, in my discussion, in the common market, salud, we won't have any problem. Yeah? You follow me there? No? Okay. So ask. If you don't follow me, ask. Ask the question. What is your question? Salud.
I understand why the exchange rate is not so important.
No, but that's the point. The point that you're making is, because the exchange rate is very important to me, I want to make sure that I have the same exchange rate. But what you are talking about is the exchange rate between this country and one or two countries. Okay? So the only exchange rate that is going to be constant in your case, since you want to integrate, is going to be the exchange rate between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. Because what you have at that point is $1 equals $1 equals $1 in the three economies. But these economies also compete with other economies. So they will be competing with whom? With the Chinese, with the Europeans, with the South Americans. Does that mean that my market is not going to be touched by these companies from outside? No, because I am not. If I'm going to integrate, I have to define several things, and currency is one of them, but I also have to define what else. Well, what is it that makes me competitive as a company? This is the key question, okay? It's productivity. How can I increase productivity? Well, I need access to financing. One of the advantages of a common currency is that the financial sectors should integrate. If the financial sectors integrate, then I'm going to have the same condition as the financial sector of the most competitive of the three countries. Let's assume, just for the sake of assumption, that it is the United States. What it means then is I'm going to have access to financing in dollars, but that's not what's important anymore. What's important is the interest rate and the length of time I'm going to be able to have. But in addition, what else am I going to have as a company? I'm going to have access to the stock market. And so I can find several ways of financing myself. I can finance through debt, I can issue debt, bonds, in that market, and they are not dangerous in the sense that all this country risk that we were talking before disappears. Because now I don't have a country risk. Yeah? In the sense, when everybody is looking at making a loan, they know that I make a loan to you in dollars and you're going to pay me back in dollars. Yeah? The only problem is this is exactly what people were talking about Greece or Cyprus or other countries. So what happened all of a sudden? Why is it that it didn't happen?
Well, because I think Greece doesn't have any commercial,
The fiscal?
Yeah. So the problem is, I want to make sure that if you're going to do that, you also put together a package. Talking about currency only, okay, is nice, interesting, and it will affect the financial sector. But in the end, as the European Union is showing to us, you have to make sure that other aspect of your legislation also makes sense. Because as a company, this could have advantages, but also disadvantages to me, okay? And one of the things I want to make sure is that you are going to allow me to be competitive. If along with that comes also a fiscal policy that will be common and responsible in the three countries, then it makes sense. If in addition to that, we have a common labor policy, and that implies that my people can walk into your continent and back with any problem at all, then yes, because I have labor mobility. And so the more you think about this as a company, you have to think, what are those elements that allow me to make a better product, but also to be competitive in making that product? These are the two questions for you, yeah? So the key question for you is, am I going to be able to bring people from the United States that maybe will be interested in getting a lower salary? Because, you know, in Texas there is no jobs, and we have jobs here, so I can bring them from there to here, and I will pay them in dollars. I know exactly how much, but they will have to come, and they will be able to work with me at a lower salary. Yeah, I have no problem with that? Fine. Because then I will send people there. As I start doing that, this famous convergence law is going to happen, okay? And so what you will see with the difference between state of Texas and the state of Pennsylvania or whatever is pretty much the same salary structure in the country. So that forces me to something else, which is it's going to be very difficult for salaries to come down. So salaries probably will go up in my country. As they go up, then my production process is more expensive, which is what they were saying. Because before, what I used to do was, okay, I pay you, but since there is exchange rate, which hopefully will be depreciating itself, then in dollar terms, it's cheaper, the labor cost in my process of production. But the problem that you're facing is, yeah, it is cheaper as long as the exchange rate goes in my favor. It's going to be more expensive if the exchange rate goes against me. Okay? I'm going to take away that risk. I'm going to have one single currency. And that implies everything will be measured with the same standard. $1 equals $1, $1. Entonces, that's not going to be the things that will give me competitiveness anymore. So then the question for a company comes, where do I get competitiveness from? What makes my company competitive?
the quality of your product.
Yeah, but you're obsessed by quality. I like that, but you know, the point is, I can make the best product. If it is too expensive, then can I sell it? Well, it depends, yeah? People will have to see the merits of that quality to be able and willing to make the payment. That implies innovation. That really implies innovation. I'm going to be innovative. I'm going to be discovering things. Do I have the structure to create that? I am a company. Do I have the structure to be innovative? Do I have the structure to discover new products?
Maybe not now, but yeah, if you have a common currency, you have more, you can have a loan. You can
But
have
not because of the common currency. What do you need?
Green Union. Green Union.
Basically, what you're talking about is, look, if we're going to play that game, then I want to make sure that not only do I have a common currency, but I also have a policy that will allow me to get the best scientists, no matter what they are. So the point I'm going to be making is, yes, I want to be innovative, I want to discover new things. That implies I need people from the scientific community that will have the capacity to do that. Do we have that capacity in Mexico? No, I don't. And there are some scientists, okay, but I don't have it on average as they do it in other places. So the key question to me is going to be, can I bring people from the United States? Can I bring people from other place and then do this innovation, this discovery process? Because if I cannot do that, well, that means the migration policy, the labor policies, other kind of policies will have to also be attuned to this concept of integration in the monetary market. In the end, what we're discussing in these questions is, if I'm going to be using a common currency, then I have to be pretty much aware that I am taking a financial decision. Financial markets probably will integrate. Well, they are pretty much integrated right now between Mexico, United States, and Canada. But what I'm saying is, but not fully integrated yet, because monetary policies are different, because exchange rate policy, therefore, is different. So the key question to me is, am I going to have access to lending at 1.2% interest rate as it is in the United States? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, then we're going to be in trouble. Because what happens is, I can get loans in Mexico, but they will force me to pay between, I don't know, I mean, you know, you go to a bank right now and ask for a loan. I can tell you what the university gets as an interest rate. We get loans at 7.5% interest rate. Okay? We are a preferred customer. 7.5% implies, if I were in the United States, I will get a loan roughly at 2-3%. If I'm getting loans in dollars at 7%, and you are getting loans in dollars at 2-3%, just that differential is going to hit me bad, okay? Which implies that because we now have this common currency, I probably will get loans at 2-3%. And the question is, what am I going to be doing now with the loans? I'm going to be investing. Yeah, well, I will invest as long as I know that my investment is going to make me a better product and competitive. Because now, everything boils down to productivity of the company. The company has to be productive. Yeah? So in the end, as business people, what you have to start asking your politicians, it's fine, it sounds great, it's interesting. Yes, it will take away some of the things that I could use, but I'm willing to give that up in exchange for what? And that is the question, okay? What am I going to be asking from you? Because then I want to have the same access as any company in this region to financial resources, to labor resources, to innovation resources, so that I can really be as competitive as I can. Am I going to be less competitive because I am Mexican? No. It's not a question of nationality, okay? It's a question of the rules and regulations under which I operate as a company. The reason why you are happy right now being an American and coming to Mexico is because you have a rule and regulation which implies the salary rates in dollar terms that you are going to be paying to your workers in this country is lower, and that gives you an advantage. That advantage is temporarily, okay? Because in the end, if the salaries in Mexico start growing, what you as a company will be looking for is not the salaries, is the productivity of your workers. That's really what will make a difference. Is, per hour worked, how much I spend. And that's really what you are interested in. So in the end, one of the things that you have to be very careful about is, all of these discussions are very interesting, but I have to look at them from the perspective of the company. What are the advantages they're going to give me? They're going to give me an integrated market. They're going to take away this concept of risk coming from, I don't know what the exchange rate is going to be tomorrow. Yeah? But once that disappears, will be equivalent to having a fixed exchange rate. Diana's point, and the point that they were making, was exactly that. A fixed exchange rate is very dangerous, because what it implies is you have no monetary policy in your hands, you have no exchange rate policy in your hands, and now everything boils down to other things that will make companies competitive. Yeah? Why do you say yes?
Because it's true, if you as a country say that the exchange rate is going to be
Fixed.
fixed, you are going to make the companies and the investors make sure that they don't have to make more effort in order to be more competitive and try to make better products or something, because they are going to be sure that the country is going to respond for them if something happens for the country in the economy or something like that.
But as a company, what you really want is you want the conditions that will allow it to be more competitive. Now, if those conditions are artificial conditions, okay, if those conditions come from the fact that you have a devalued currency, if those conditions come from the fact that you have a subsidy from the government, then you know that once there is no capacity to sustain the fixed exchange rate at the level that gives you that subsidy, or once you don't have as government money to keep providing you with subsidy funds, then your business is going to be in danger. Okay? Think about that the same way. If a country comes to me and says, I'm going to be adopting a common currency, then what I have to think is the consequences of the common currency, positive as they may be, against the consequences of other policies that will be required for me to be able to say that I will be competitive in the end. The problem in Europe was you did have a common currency exchange rate policy, but you didn't have a common financial policy, and you didn't have a common fiscal policy. As you don't put those two policies together, the risk for the company is what happened in Europe. The moment that my deficit ballooned, that became too large, and people are no longer willing to make loans to that country at a certain interest rate go up for everybody. Okay? In addition, because you didn't have the right financial policies and you didn't supervise correctly in one country or so how the money was used, how the money was lent, then you have another problem. What is the difference between NAFTA then and Mercosur? Well, Mercosur is now deciding or discussing. Brazil is discussing with whom? Brazil is with the BRICS. Yeah? Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And they are discussing now what? To create one common bank, development bank. And they also are discussing how do we use our currencies to exchange products. Yeah? So what the Brazilians are telling the Chinese and the Russians and the Indians and the South Africans is, look, let's do the following. Rather than going to a common currency, why don't we talk about, I can pay you in reales and you can pay me back in Namibias. And then at the end of the year, we all sit together and decide who has more of the currencies, and then we see what we can do.
I hear that Argentina and Brazil are going to make a bridge, and Argentina is going to pay with pesos.
Pesos.
Mm-hmm. And Brazil is going to pay with reales. But I don't know, is it going to work?
Why not? Think about it, why not?
Because there's a lot of difference between reales and pesos.
Okay, so the point that you're making is, let me see, you're going to build a bridge, okay? Now, if the bridge is built by a Brazilian company, or is it going to be built by an Argentinian company? Or is it going to be half and half?
You ask me if you...
Yeah? You have no idea, but let's think about these possibilities. I'm going to build a bridge between you and me, and what I can do is I can build it with my companies, or I can build it with your companies, or we can split the job. Half and half, or if it is going to be 3/4 on my land and 1/4 in yours, then it's 3/4 my company, 1/4 your company. If that were the agreement, what happens? How will that work?
The party in Argentina pays pesos and the party in Brazil pays.
Okay, now, who's going to be responsible for the costs of that bridge?
Both.
Both. How will you split the cost? Remember, 75% is in my land, 25% is in your land.
Because I also have the 75% of advantage.
Okay, so who pays 75% then?
Me.
Okay. So I am Argentina, 75% is on me, I will have to pay 75% of the cost. The Brazilians are going to pay how much?
25.
Okay. Now we have the bridge, and everything was simple. No problem with the currencies, because we just defined that's fine. Who's going to be building the 75% of the bridge on my side?
My company.
Okay. So therefore, tough luck, Charlie Brown, 75% is mine, 25% is yours. My companies build 75%. And I pay them in pesos. No problema. Now, what happens when the bridge is going to be used?
Everyone uses the same, but like.
But why? Why I pay 75%? Why
I also
Brazilian?
pay 75% of.
That's fine. But why am I going to allow Brazilian? Why am I going to allow Brazilian to pay nothing if I pay 75% for the bridge?
Because it's a deal you do.
Okay.
But
So
you also win.
are you sure?
Yeah, because you are having 75% more of the.
And
jobs.
here comes now the invasion of products from Brazil. Because now they have the bridge. And they can sell a lot of things to my country.
But it's the same. I can also sell a lot of things.
Yeah,
there.
but look at my economy, look at yours. Who do you think is going to be sending more things through that bridge? You or I? Okay. So why should I allow the Brazilians then? They should pay 75% through what? Toll roads. I'm going to put a toll and they have to pay. But the Argentinians only have to pay 25. I'm exaggerating. What I'm saying to you is the discussion then becomes, is this a common project? If it's going to be a common project, and we're going to be financing it with your money and my money, the first thing is my currency the currency that will be accepted by any company in the world? In other words, is ICA, a Mexican company, willing to bid and participate in a project where they will be getting in payment for the work, reales or pesos argentinos? Will you participate under those terms? Well, that's a question, okay? See how things become then difficult. Because what we're talking about is, if I'm an international company and I want to participate in a bidding relating to a bridge that will be built between Argentina and Brazil, and this bridge is going to be financed by the governments of these two countries, and the condition they are imposing is payments will be made either in reales or in pesos argentinos, am I willing to participate and be part of a bidding process? And if I win, am I willing to build that bridge? And all the profits I'm going to be getting are going to be either in reales or in pesos argentinos. So all of a sudden I have these results, and my results are in pesos argentinos or in reales. What happens next as a company? I really want to force you to think as a company all the time.
You reinvest that money in the same country.
Okay. And you're hoping that they will then let you change that money for dollars, yeah?
Yes.
Because you really don't care about the peso argentinos or the reales unless you're working there. So the first problem you're going to be facing is a lot of companies that otherwise will have participated will say, I won't participate. In addition, the government of Argentina or the government of Brazil may say, you know what, only Argentinians or Brazilians will participate. So whenever you discuss these things, obviously there are the political considerations, okay? But in the end, the big consideration is, it makes sense to have a common currency because in the end, that solves all these problems. But right now, the common currency of the world is the dollar. The Europeans tried to build another common currency of the world, which was the euro, and the euro is okay. I still take euros. Now the Chinese are saying, I'm going to be building another common currency for the world. See, my thing. When you look at all these things, you have to think one thing, what is it that really gives you strength to put a currency as a currency of the world?
That it's going to be accepted everywhere.
And that will be accepted as long as you and I trust that you have a strong economy. Because you are the one issuing that money. And I want to make sure that that money is not going to devalue in terms of what I can buy. The problem with the Brazil-Argentina story is, what happens if all of a sudden, because of internal policies of Brazil and Argentina, the peso argentino or the real brasileño really devalues? Then how many dollars am I able to buy? I am a Mexican company. I operate most of the business in Mexico. My profits are going to be declared on what? Pesos. And therefore what I'm interested is, how many pesos am I going to report at the end of the year as profit or loss? Not how many reales or how many pesos argentinos or how many dollars, okay? It's pesos. Because my shareholders are Mexicans. They live in Mexico and they want their profits in pesos. Now you're going to say to me, well, dollars is not bad. Okay, but then we're talking a different business. Then we're talking an international company, and then I have shareholders from all over the world. Whenever I report a profit or a loss, I have to report my profit or a loss in what currency? In the currency that my shareholders will be interested. So in the end, if I really want to put my shares on sale in the world, there are two currencies that so far have been accepted, euros and dollars. And so I'm going to be reporting my profits in euros or in dollars. But think of this university, it's really fascinating, okay? I have a stock of debt in dollars at the beginning of the year. Let's say that is, I don't remember, let's say $5 million still, okay? If I have $5 million and then I translate those into pesos and the exchange rate is 13 pesos, how many pesos do I report in my balance? 65, yeah? 13 times 5, 65. So when I report at the end of the year, I say that I had a debt of 65 million pesos, yeah? In fact, my debt is in dollars, and it's $5 million. Exchange rate, 13 to 1. I don't do nothing at all during the year. But the exchange rate goes to 12 to 1. At the end of the year, I still have $5 million debt. How many pesos is now that one? 60. When I report my balance and my statement, my income statement, I'm going to be reporting a 5 million peso win. Did I do anything at all? Well, the point I'm making to you is these are all financial transactions. And the only reason why I'm reporting this win is because the exchange rate went from 13 to 12. So when I look at this in peso terms, what I'm telling people is I won 5 million pesos. But this money comes from where? What did I do as an enterprise to get this profit? Nothing. Okay? It was all the exchange rate. Think the opposite. It goes to 14 to 1. Then I'm going to have 70 million debt, and I'm going to report a loss of 5 million. This is the point that you were making, okay? The exchange rate becomes important if my business is one where by having a common currency, then I will have a different story. But if I'm a company that is really selling places other than the United States or Canada, then these are part of the games of the exchange rate. What she was saying to you and what they were saying was, that's why this is nice. Because think of this not in pesos, think in dollars. What's going to happen is, if I had 65 million, and I really say how many dollars are those in 12 to 1, 13 to 1, that is going to change exactly the opposite way. And so what's happening right now in Mexico is a lot of companies are coming to our market because they are making profits simply because of the revaluation of the peso in terms of dollars. Because what they do is by the time that they get paid their dividends or whatever, in dollar terms they're getting more money than they did before. Yeah?
Is that what they call golondrina investment?
Well, the problem with the golondrina investment then is, I'm making investments right now in Mexico because it seems profitable to do so. But I'm not making investment in anything that would be productive by itself. What I'm doing is I'm taking advantage of financial considerations, and I'm using those financial considerations for profits in terms of my relationship. If I am confident that the exchange rate is going to be staying around this point, then I'm willing to buy bonds for a longer period of time. And what I'm interested in at that point is interest rate. Okay? And the interest rate at that point is higher in Mexico than the United States. With a fixed exchange rate, I'm going to be making more profits putting my money in Mexico than putting my money in the United States. If there is a devaluation, then that's it, in dollars, because I'm interested in dollars, I'm not interested in pesos. If I'm going to be building a bridge and they're going to be paying me in pesos, I have to figure out what will be the exchange rate. In order to avoid any risk with the exchange rate, I'm going to buy a future, an option. Because what I want to do is I want to minimize the risk of the exchange rate. So there are ways of doing it. I don't need a fixed exchange rate.
How do you minimize the risk?
Well, you buy an option. What you buy, you say, well, the exchange rate right now is 12 to 1. I'm going to keep the money for 6 months. I can either take the risk of what will be the exchange rate, or I can come to someone and say, are you willing to sell to me dollars at how much in 6 months' time? And the guy will say to you, okay, I'm willing to sell it to you at 12.30. Okay? So you buy an option to buy dollars at 12.30 and you pay a commission. That commission represents really your interest rate, and that will be really the question. So many companies, what they do, and this is something you should be learning in financial things, is you buy options, derivatives, things of that sort, because what you do is you protect yourself, okay? But it would be nice if you don't need to do that because you know that the exchange rate is 1 to 1 and will remain 1 to 1. Well, that takes away this part. But these are financial considerations, okay? The reason why many companies in Mexico went bankrupt during the big crisis of the year 2009 is because people play games that they didn't know how to play. Okay? Comercial Mexicana play games. Gruma play games. What is the meaning of playing games? You always have something called treasury, yeah? You know what a treasury is? Oh, come on. You don't know what a treasury is? Your company, treasury. You have a treasurer. You don't want to work for a company. Treasurer. And treasurer. What is it that he does or she does?
Take care of the money.
Yeah, what money?
Company.
Yeah. And so, at some point in time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I have a capital, I have an investment. I go and I make a loan, I get a loan, I get the cash, or I have a surplus because at some point I get more income than expenses. But I know that my expenses during the year are going to be 300. What happens is I get 300 payment upfront. So I have $300 million. That's what's called treasury, okay? You have 3 million pesos. I have 3 million pesos, which I know that I'm going to start paying in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months, in 12 months, and at the end, this is going to go. Does it make sense for me to keep $300 million there, since I know that I'm going to use 100 here, 50 here, 50 here, 100 there? What would you do? Mariana, what would you do? You're the treasurer of this company. You know that you're going to pay, you have $300 million cash, and you're in 3, 6, 9, and 12 months, you're going to be spending 100, 50, 50, 100. What would you do? Or just keep the money and say, well, let's play it safe?
No, maybe with the money that I have to pay in the future, I can play with it, like invest.
Okay.
And
What would you invest in?
like in options or, well,
Really?
well, I mean,
This is, by the way, this is what Comercial Mexicana did, okay? They bought options. And, well, it depends. Do you know how to play options?
You can do arbitrage.
Yeah, same thing. Arbitrage, options, it's derivatives in the end, okay? See, the point is, the best investment for you is the surest one. The surest one is I don't use the money. Yeah? So I keep the money on my mattress. I sleep on it every single day, and I just get the cash, and I know the cash is there. Yeah? And then I am the owner of the company. I come to you and say, oh my God, what kind of treasurer do I have? I want a treasurer that uses the liquidity of the company to create some extra profit. And you may not believe this, but this is what we do in the university, okay? We have different payments, different cash flows, and you have to try to minimize the amount of money that we would increase your rates, yeah? So what we do is say, well, let me say, if I can make this many profit using my budget correctly, then I won't have to increase tuition 1% more. Fine. If you want to do that, you better know how to play the game. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be investing in what? In the things that will be the most secure, give you more security. And that will be government bonds, yeah? But that only pays me 4.3%.
What happened with Comercial Mexicana? What happened with Comercial Mexicana?
Well, Comercial Mexicana had a nice, intelligent, very right person who said, let's play the market. And so they got all this cash, they even got some loans, and they invested in options and derivatives. And the first 2 years, the result of that game was huge profits. Okay? So they reported profits. And when the profits came, everybody said, this company is great. They sell 2 billion pesos and they make a 1 billion peso profit. My God, let's give a bonus to all these guys. Okay? So as I get a bonus, I say, my God, let me do it again next time. And I do it again next time. And I do it again next time until conditions of the market turn around. And then I didn't lose the 3 billion that I had won, which anyway I already had spent, but I lost 7 billion. And all of a sudden I'm bankrupt, yeah? Because I have to pay 7 billion because I made this game. Okay? And as it turned out, it wasn't 12.30. It was 11. And so I had to pay this guy 12.30 when he only had to pay 11. And I lost the difference, okay? When they lost the difference, they went bankrupt. Did that have anything to do with their business? No. But you are going to be tempted to do the same, okay? So when you look at all these conditions, and this is really what we're looking at during the class, is not only the process of integration that's important, okay? Is in the process of integration, one thing is straight, One thing is labor, one thing is fiscal, one thing is financial, and if I am going to go into a full integration, I have to make sure that each and every single policy becomes the same. One of the problems of our economy right now is we integrate with the United States, but we left out 2 or 3 sectors that were very important. One was energy, the other one is labor. And because we didn't integrate in labor and in energy, then we're having trouble in many of the things that we do. Okay?
How important is the legal system?
It's very important. You have to have the sector, of course. So in the end, if you want to integrate, what you have to recognize is we're going to become the same. And in the process of becoming the same, so I have some things which I will ask you for time, but in the end I have to reach that point. Okay? I have to adjust my system, my economy to the thing, but they also have to adjust to the same thing. Okay?
So you don't recommend us to play with the money, even if we like have not.
It's a question of how much you want to lose. Yeah? Let's just give you an example. Let's suppose that I have at this point in time, okay, a surplus in my treasury as a university of 180 million pesos, which means I do have that money there, okay? But I know that in the end I'm going to be using the money later on because I have to pay. It just happens that I'm going to be building, I don't know, let's say renovation of this thing. Sure, I go to the guy and say, well, look, I'll pay you in 6 months. Well, in the negotiation with the person, I'm going to try to get as much as I can, yeah? So I tell the guy, look, I will be very happy to give you the contract, but the problem is I need someone who will be giving me financing for 4 months. No payments whatsoever, and then I'll pay you 5th and 6th month. And if you're a good negotiator, you try to do that, yeah? Even if you have the money. Better to give my money, and he puts his money, yeah? So you go through the process, and you have the cash, but you know you have to pay at the end. So the question for you is, how do I play this money? But I have to play in ways that will make me better off, but the risk associated with that, I have to take into consideration. Okay? Now, how well do you know the market to play with the market? That's really the question, okay? Well, it depends. I mean, if you're a specialist on that, then you can minimize the risk. But there are risks and there are risks, yeah? You take risk every single day in your life. You drive and you drive without drinking. There is a risk. You drive and you say, well, I can take 2 beers and I still will be okay because, yeah, you know, the road looks a little bit narrower, but still. Yeah? So I can do that. And I've done this 20,000 times and nothing has happened. It can happen, yeah? The best thing is, don't drink if you drive. But if you drink, recognize then what's going to happen to you. Your reaction time is going to be slower. And your conception of what you can and cannot do will be a little bit more blurred than if you are sober. So you take the risk, and then you go really drunk. Okay? So here comes your friend, you really like him or her a lot, and he or she is absolutely drunk. And you know because slurs the words and says, let's go. And you say, but this is my friend. And she or he has never had an accident. Yes, I'll go in the car with him. Of course not. You look at the guy and say, you know what? I'll drive myself. I'm the one I really know. No way, please. In fact, I'm not going to allow you to drive. Because what you're going to do is you're going to create a problem. I hope you do that, okay? So, there's a question of risk. Now, you can go in the car and you can go together and nothing happens. It does happen occasionally. The probability of that is very low. The probability that you go in a sober car, meaning no one is drunk, and that you will have an accident is very small. Still there, small. Same thing when you play with these games, okay? So you have to be very careful. How much do you want to risk? And so the first thing you have to put in your head is, how much can I lose Because
at some point it is like betting with the money.
exactly, that's what it is. And so the question that you ask yourself, you see, the problem of everybody I know is the question they ask themselves is, how much am I going to win? The question you have to ask yourself is, how much am I going to lose? How much can I lose? And then make your bet. Because if you lose, you know what your loss is going to be. Okay? And then, I'm hoping you already made your calculation and said, I can take this loss. But no one does that. Everybody plays, how much am I going to win? And the more you win, the more you feel invincible. Yeah?
So in the example that you gave us to the university, like you won 5 minutes, you play with it, like you say.
Very safe. I have to play it, so that doesn't make sense. I mean, you know.
You keep it with it 12 to 1.
We don't play with this. We are not experts in exchange rate, okay? If you take my bet right now, my bet would be that we're going to be around 12.40 at the end of the year, okay? So what we did last year is we did some good choices saying, I have a bet in dollars. This is the time of the lowest exchange rate I think is going to happen. We bought the dollars, we paid, and we were lucky enough. What's really funny for me is that this is already happening in the university, okay? Which is, I'm making a profit out of money. This doesn't exist, okay? This is paper profit. And there is a lot of paper profits in the income statements that you will see of many companies. You have to be very careful when you invest in a company. How much of that money is paper profit? How much of that money is real profit? Okay? This is paper profit.
But is it risky too? Like if it goes up, I mean.
Yeah, but I'm a company. I mean, we don't sell shares, okay? But I put my shares on the market, and I report this profit. Okay? So a guy looks at my income statement and says, ah, great, they make money. I'm going to buy their shares. God bless you. Because what's going to happen to you is, this was completely the result of an exchange rate movement. Okay? So if you bought my shares because of this profit, without understanding that they came only because of this, then if the opposite happens next year, you're not going to be looking at the profit but at the loss of 5 million. These are paper profits. Okay? Be very careful when you buy shares. Because there are a lot of companies that will report you. You have to understand income statements. If you don't understand income statements, you're in trouble. I know that people hate accounting. It's very important. Accounting allows you to understand how these things happen. You look at the income statement of the company, yeah, but you have to look at the revenue statement. How are revenues of this company produced? Are they really competitive or not? Are they making profits because of things which are completely outside their control? Did they make profits because the treasury in one particular year made the right investments? And therefore, the profit that they are now reporting comes 95% from the investments made by the treasurer, rather than from the production process of the company. Am I going to buy shares in that company? Well, maybe you will. I won't. Okay? I'm very conservative. But the problem is, always think about what you will lose, not what you will win. You know, when you win, it's happiness. When you lose, it's pain. In everything you do in life, by the way, okay? I mean, there are things that you do and you may enjoy the second, but you know, the pain may come for months and months. So the things you have to be very careful about is, how do you do things? Look at these things. When you look at these things, the same questions are there, okay? Every single one of these questions are positives and negatives. And you have to learn to evaluate the positives and the negatives. You cannot just sit and say, everything is wrong. No. What is wrong in this thing? What is right in this thing? Are the rights better than the wrongs? Yes or no? And then, how can I minimize the wrongs? But if I don't understand what the wrongs are, I will not be able to minimize the wrongs. Okay? You have to learn to do that. Okay, I'm going to send you the rest of the information. We're going to jump into Mexico now and NAFTA.